Hello everybody, welcome to Ask JP today. Next question is Kranthi from Tanuku. He's a game developer. See, you have new professions and new occupations which are unheard of coming up. It's so nice to hear these new occupations which are productive and economically employable. Kranthi?
Namaste JP sir. Myself Kranthi. I work as a game developer. I'm a great admirer of your work. More power to you, sir. Here, my question is: road accidents are one of the biggest challenges our country is facing today. As we grow, and India has a 11% share of global road accidental deaths, which is very much alarming. So, your thoughts on this, and what kind of policies we should make to avoid these kind of situations? I just want to hear it from you, sir. Thank you very much for your opportunity.
Thank you, Kranthi. It's a great question. You know, in life, we can blame society or history or caste system or tradition for some things. But there are many things we can easily do without being burdened by our society or tradition or history. And because we fail to do, there's enormous loss of life and suffering and grief. We are losing every year 1.5 to 2 lakh young people mostly, 18 to 25-year-olds mostly, to road accidents. Totally preventable. Very precious young lives are lost. And because these are young lives, the life years lost are much more than the mortality. If let's say every death is a tragedy. But if a 80-year-old person dies of a sickness and already has significant amount of morbidity, many diseases, there is grief in the family, there is loss to society. But if a 25-year-old youngster loses life, the prime of life, with another 50, 60 years ahead, then the loss to society is far greater. India is losing the largest number of people in accidents in the world, about 1.5 to 1.7 lakhs to 2 lakh people, nearly 2 lakh a year. This is almost 11 to 12% of the total number of deaths in road accidents in the world. But we only have 1% of the vehicles in the world. It's not that our density of vehicle population is so great that we are dying. And if we take the mileage, the number of kilometers the vehicles travel, we are much less than the rest of the society. So considering that our accident rate is higher, yes, there are worse countries than us. Pakistan probably has more accidents per number of vehicles. A country like Kenya, at least earlier, used to be quite reckless. But that's not the comparison we should have. We should look at what is actually happening in the rest of the world, more significant countries where they have better systems available. We can do much better. Not only is the number of accidents higher per unit number of vehicles, but the number of fatalities are also much higher. For every 3 accidents, there is 1 death in India. Typically, in better managed countries, there is 1 death for every 7 to 8 or 10 accidents. What it means is that post-Act 1 is we are not able to prevent accidents because of recklessness, because of bad enforcement, sometimes bad infrastructure, bad compliance. It's not always the government, it's also we. Go on the national highway, a wonderful national highway, not much of traffic, you have a good car, you want to travel at 80 kilometers or 90 kilometers, suddenly a vehicle comes in the opposite direction on a lane on which the vehicle should not travel because they want to avoid a U-turn. You see it far too often. I see it all the time, particularly when you go from Hyderabad to, let's say, Bangalore on that road. So unless we have that enforcement, you see on the traffic island, every morning I go for a morning walk, but I have to drive to the KBR Park, a wonderful park in Hyderabad city. But in Panjakutta Chaurasta, one of the prominent chaurastas, you're terrified when you have a green light because suddenly when there is a red light in the opposite, in the other direction, the vehicles come at 60, 70 kilometer speed. You're terrified that you may die. This just is not right. There must be compliance and strong enforcement. Strangely, in Hyderabad city, I hope it's not common in the rest of the country. The cumulative fines imposed for violation of traffic rules, the traffic police announced on file day, please pay by so and so day, and 80% or 90% we waive them. You imposed a penalty because there is a serious offense offending public safety. You want to send a signal to society. You want to tell them if they break the rules, people die or people get injured, therefore we penalize you so that you don't break the rules. And then, as if it's a normal tax matter or something, you say if you pay by so and so date, we will waive 80% of the penalties. It's absurd. We lost a sense of perspective. You cannot have compassion to traffic violators. Unless we are forced to pay the penalty, unless we take the consequences of our misdeeds, how will we change our behavior? How will people be safe? Tomorrow you can be the victim, I can be the victim, our child can be the victim. We cannot take these casually in a cavalier fashion. And post-accident, we have to address the challenge of emergency care. While some things have improved, EMRI and other emergency relief systems, at least emergency response systems, have now become a little better. Therefore, from the accident site to a hospital, people are going quickly. But the protocols and infrastructure are still so inadequate that the fatality rate is much higher in India. I already mentioned to you, for every 3 accidents, there's 1 death in India, one of the highest in the world. That means post-accident our management is very poor, whether transport or in the medical facility to quickly address the needs. Having the infrastructure, and when you have the infrastructure, if an accident victim in a life-threatening situation does not get emergency treatment instantly, within minutes you can have 1 more death. All these need to be addressed systematically. But most of all, prevention of accidents. We can do that easily. The other day I heard about a child who topped in the school in a test related to traffic rules. But that child, sadly, met with an accident while he was returning to his home. Because what you learned in the textbook and where you topped also, you did not realize, the child is not enabled to realize that it's actually a life or death issue. These are about your safety, observing these rules to protect yourself. So from childhood education about traffic rules to driving licenses, many people who should not be the driving will get licensed so casually in this country, even now. And observing the driving discipline and the rules, enforcement and compliance. And finally, post-accident, what we need to do to protect, to prevent more deaths or disability. There's a lot we can do. This is one area which can be improved dramatically because people, once they understand it's going to really work, they will support. Because it's about their lives and their near and dear ones' lives. So I think the government and the society and all of us together must take responsibility. It is a shame that we have the largest number of fatalities on the road, mostly of young people. This cannot be taken as a normal thing. It is not an act of God. It is entirely our own folly, collectively and individually. This must be prevented. The number of people who are now grieving for losing their near and dear ones, they may have everything else in life. Otherwise, they are in good health. They are very fortunate. Their circumstances are very fortunate and happy. They have marketable skills and knowledge. They have a good business. They have good income. All these, but you cannot stop an accident. We owe it to ourselves and our children to pay much greater attention, not a perfunctory, superficial attention, to actually prevent accidents. Take it as a central issue, one of the central issues, because this is a low-hanging fruit. Society will support. There is a real direct consequence of our actions and decisions today, as individuals and collectively as a society and the government. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is real. And I hope that we'll wake up. We cannot lose so many people on the roads. And once an accident is there, we cannot lose lives so casually. We have to save every single life, particularly of the young people, with a long life ahead of them.